I want to talk a little bit about some of the response to the article, the Emily Oster article about pandemic amnesty, which has really made the rounds and has gotten a lot of feedback, a lot of very scathing feedback, which is very very heartening to read and hear. If you want to see my own personal response to the article, you can see it on my BitChute page. I'll leave the link to that below. I left the link to it in the video that the shorter video that I recorded yesterday as well. But I'll leave it here as well. But what interests me more now is the response to the article, and I want to talk more about that. Now, one of the an interesting video was recorded by somebody who's called the Distributist, somebody whom I had not watched before, but who I'd heard about a few times, and he gives a take on the article that I think is a bit misguided. And he's, of course, coming from the correct perspective. He's coming from the perspective of somebody who doesn't wish to give amnesty to those who were psychotic tyrants for the last couple of years because of this issue. Which I'm not even going to be explicit about it. I'm not even going to call it by name. I'm going to be as vague about it as I possibly can. Even though these other people on YouTube are talking about it directly, I know that I'm kind of a targeted individual around here, and so I'm going to be more vague just to be on the safe side. But everybody knows what I'm saying when I say these things, so it's really not that much of a concession on my part, I don't think. Anyway, the Distributist thinks that this article was put out as what he calls bait, and he sees some kind of I don't want to say conspiracy behind it. I'm not meaning to cast aspersions. The word conspiracy, sounds like it's casting aspersions, even though it isn't. So it has that connotation, even though it's unfair that it has that connotation. So how should I call it? How should I characterize it? He sees it as a sort of strategy that's been put in place. He thinks that the author of the article isn't really sincere, and of course, we can all agree that she's very intellectually dishonest in many ways. But I think that she is trying to. I think the main message that she has is something that she believes. So in that manner of speaking, she is sincere. But the Distributist, and I'll link to his article below as well. He seems to think that this was put out there as bait, and that the people on the right, the people who were against this fanaticism, this tyrannical, unconstitutional, extra-constitutional imposition that took so many horrific forms over the last couple of years. He seems to think that the opposition took the bait because, well, the way he puts it is, the article says we need amnesty, we need to just forgive and forget and move on, and people read it and said, hell no, we're not forgetting nothing, and we're not forgiving nothing. Not until not until they own it, right? Not until they own their mistakes and there's some justice, some manner of making things right, evening the scales of justice for the injustice that's been meted out to so many, whether they're children, whether they're dissidents, whether they're people who didn't want to get a certain thing done to them, and afterwards were excluded from numerous places and activities in many places in the country and in the world, and which I mentioned yesterday with a decision by the New York Supreme Court to restore these people who were excluded because they didn't get what I call here the Baj. Think of Baj spelled backwards. That's what I'm talking about. People who refused the Baj, people who were unbajed, and who got fired from their jobs because of it. The New York Supreme Court decided recently, I think it was last week or maybe a couple weeks ago, that these people should be restored to their jobs and they should be given pay for all the time that they missed, because this was an injustice that was done unto them. And this is in New York, which is no bastion of conservatism, and no bastion of virus skepticism or Baj skepticism. So we see that these things, this backlash has already taken a definite form and shape, and this article, I believe, was put out as a way to try to for this group that is guilty, that has so many has heaped so many sins upon their own heads with the way that they've behaved over the last couple of years, and what they have tyrannically imposed, and if they were in no position to impose it, what they have supported. And this lady is a professor at Brown University, in elite college. So she's she's not just some some yokel out in the middle of nowhere who gets angry with everybody on Twitter and tells them to wear their masks or else they're killing people or whatever. She's not some impotent fanatic flailing about in from their own four walls of their little hovel in some hick town somewhere. This is an author, a speaker, somebody who's been featured on MSNBC and other places. And by the standards of the elite, I suppose this woman is somewhat of a moderate, because she wanted schools to open when most of this clique, this ruling claque, most of them were saying, no, we got to keep them closed. We got to keep these restrictions in place. We got to enforce Baj mandates for everybody. Make it more and more difficult on those people out there who are refusing this. Well, she was one of these people who was pushing for Baj mandates, but on the other hand, she was advocating that schools be reopened because transmission rates amongst children were low, and children were not being best served with forced school closures. So in that sense, she can function as a quote unquote moderate, and by the standards of the group that she belongs to, she is somewhat of a moderate, but she's still way out there. I'll say she's way out there on the left. By the left-right paradigm that we use, but she's, another way of putting it is she's a fanatically tyrannical and tyranny-favoring person who is far from powerless, who is, a spokeswoman for her side. So returning to the distributist, he thinks that people on the right, people who opposed these mandates, however they define themselves, whether they're conservative, dissident right, libertarian, or even liberal in certain cases, classically liberal, let's say, that we've taken the bait by saying hell no, a pandemic amnesty my ass, by having those kinds of reactions and being angry at this article and what it's proposing, that he says we're taking the bait. And what he argues is that the article was put out there so that we would have that kind of reaction to it, and that would thus send the message to the health care establishment and the governmental establishment and the media establishment and every establishment that there is. It would send the message to representatives of these establishments, not to abdicate, not to conspicuously step away from the group that they're a part of, because if they do, they'll be lynched by this angry mob who's reading this article and having these very conspicuously angry reactions on Twitter and elsewhere online. And so the distributist seems to think that's the whole. To me it's a bit convoluted and overthought. I hate the saying sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. To me, that when they say that that Freud, attributed to Freud, I don't know if it's if he actually said it or not, but it's like things aren't always as deep as they might seem to be, or things aren't always as complicated and convoluted and labyrinthine as you might guess that they are. Given that there are plenty of people out there who are capable of, being extremely devious. There are evil people out there who are capable of this kind of Machiavellian, these kind of very clever Machiavellian calculations. But it's a mistake to think that our so-called betters, the elites and so forth, that they are just so smart all the time. They're always outsmarting us. They're always one step ahead of us. I mean, I think that's the trap. That's kind of the black pill trap that people fall into. We're never going to make any headway because they're just, they're so powerful and they're so clever. Well, they are powerful, but they're a lot less clever than you think they are most of the time. And I don't think this article was written with the idea of provoking a response from the right, getting people to go, and get out their pitchforks, metaphorically speaking, and then thus to send the message to fellow elitists who want to abdicate their position as elitists and go over to the other side to say to them, see, if you try to apologize and say you were wrong, then they'll just they're not going to forgive you. There's no forgiveness amongst these people, so you're locked in. You just got to stay where you are. Well, this article was not written asking for forgiveness. That's one thing that is missed by this assessment, and that's part of what's so annoying about it and what people are correctly reacting to. It's just this. She's just trying to say, well, let's just forget and forgive and move on. No, wait a minute. Before we forget and forgive and move on, why don't we decide? Why don't we have a bit of justice for all of the atrocities that have been taking place, that have been mandated, that have been legislated, that have been enforced over the course of the last 2 years of fear-mongering and hysteria that's been whipped up shamelessly by the medical establishment and the governmental establishment. So I think that the takes like the distributist has are, in a way, a kind of black-pilled response to this article. And I think we should see the appearance of this article as a good thing, in that it's an effort for it's evidence that these people who are pushing these insane policies are well aware of the backlash, well aware of where they stand increasingly, with more and more people waking up to the insanity that they've been purveying, and the tyranny that they've been advocating and mandating. And an article like this is just a pathetic effort to try to sort of say sorry, not sorry. To try to say, yeah, we were wrong about, and she makes little concessions. She says nothing about mandates, notably. She says nothing about a whole bunch of other things, but she does say it was stupid that they closed beaches in California, and we were stupid when we went out hiking and put handkerchiefs over our faces when other people, other hikers were coming to close by, and when my 4-year-old yelled social distancing. But we didn't know. When we were behaving in this insane, fanatical, fear-mongered kind of manner. It's so inadequate, and that's what people are responding to. So I don't think the distributist is correct in saying that it's bait, and we're taking the bait if we have an angry reaction to this article. This article shows that there's blood in the water. And and they should. I think it's a good thing for these people to be afraid. I'm not saying they should be afraid for their lives. Don't misunderstand me. Don't try to construe what I'm saying into something else. And I'm not advocating violence against them. But I do think it's good that they're seeing this kind of angry reaction, this angry response. It's not bait taking. It's a reaction to blood in the water, right? And I think we people on our side want justice. We aren't predatory, but on the other hand, we are still, we're mammalian, and we've got within us somewhere, the hunter. And the hunter, scents blood. And when he scents blood, he knows that the gig is up. He knows that he's closing in. And an article like this, is just a failed attempt at trying to say let's forgive and forget and move on. But the effect that it has is it's and this is not what they anticipated, because again, they're not as clever as you think they are most of the time. Okay, but the effect that it's having is that of blood in the water, and people are aware of that. And they're not reacting angrily because they're reacting angrily because the article is disingenuous and ridiculous and ought to be dismissed for the ridiculous things that it says and for the way that it tries to escape blame for her and the group that she represents for all of their activities. But in another way, it signifies that there is blood in the water and that the gig is up. So those are my thoughts on the reaction to this article. Tell me what you think below. Again, I'll give the links that I spoke of to my article and to the Distributus, or to my video and the Distributus video in the description.